Another mock draft by Keith Sanchez, pre-Superbowl. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes number 2 to the Chicago Bears, means Justin Fields is staying in Chi-Town. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, but I got to kick this thing over to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, man. And listen, I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Listen, this is a hot show. This is not just any Monday. This is my mock draft Monday, DP. That was a little bit of a tongue twister at the top of that, but make sure y'all hit the like button. Make sure y'all comment. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And you know how we break this mock drafts down. Listen, the first segment will be picks 1 through 10. The second segment, we're going picks 11 through 20. And the third segment, we're going picks 21 through 32 to finish this thing off. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, guys, like he said, picks 1 through 10 to start. And at number 1, we have the shocker of the draft. Caleb Williams is still the QB1, but the Washington Commanders traded with the Chicago Bears and select Caleb Williams. And number 2, with that second overall pick, the Chicago Bears from the trade select Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. At pick 3, the New England Patriots select quarterback out of North Carolina, Drake Maye. At number 4, the Arizona Cardinals pivot for wide receiver, selecting Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU. At pick 5, the Los Angeles Chargers go wide receiver again in the first round with Rome Odunze from Washington. At pick 6, the New York Giants say we're gonna get a new quarterback, Jaden Daniels out of LSU. At pick 7, we have the Tennessee Titans selecting Joe Alt, offensive tackle from Notre Dame. At pick 8, the Atlanta Falcons select Laiatu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA. At pick 9, the Chicago Bears also select Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle from Penn State. And at pick 10, the New York Jets select Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Keith, as I said in the opening, we got to go back up to number 2. So I get the trade up for number 1, right? I did a piece over A to Z. Everything kind of, just makes sense, right? You bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who was an offensive analyst for USC in 2023 with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley.
Running air raid offense, right?
Exactly, right. Bring all that to Washington, right? With the weapons they have, it makes sense to want to be aggressive and go get the hometown kid, right? In my piece of A to Z, I said this is a LeBron James situation. You bring the hometown kid home, right? Number 2. So the number 1, I get. Number 2 is like, okay. So we're sticking with Fields. We got DJ Moore. Now we add Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're a Chicago Bears fan, I feel like you should be pleased with this. Like, I know that Caleb Williams is outstanding, but you get the best wide receiver in the draft to come in to be 1A, 1B with DJ Moore.
Yep.
And I forget is it Cauldron? I think is the name of the OC from Seattle Seahawks that came over to be the OC for Chicago. I like this pick a lot, Keith. You know what I mean? For one, I've always been a Justin Fields guy in terms of, man, just get him some weapons. He has not had more than 1 or 2 viable options, and that was up until, that wasn't to the point till 2023 when they traded for DJ Moore. I like this trade. I like this pick a lot, Keith, because again, you get the best receiver in the draft. You already have a wide receiver 1. Cole Kmet took steps. If you're Justin Fields, you're like, oh yeah, Dang right. Let's go. Let's roll with this.
Yeah, no, and that's why I kind of went with it, right? Because I could have went offensive tackle this early, but like I said, I think if you're talking about the Chicago Bears just trading down one spot and then obviously still having another pick inside the top 10, this is a deep offensive tackle class. So if you just need a offensive tackle, you can get one, right? Because right now you have Darnell Wright, then you have our guy. When he was a fifth round off a fifth round,
Jones, I think.
Yeah, Braxton Jones, and I believe he was a fifth round selection. So I mean, like you draft any player, right, with top 10, top 15 caliber traits, obviously that's going to be an upgrade. So you upgrade the wide receiver position and you upgrade the offensive tackle position. So I definitely like that for the Chicago Bears. And I think if we talk about 2 picks within the top 10, now the conversation is, and we'll present this on another show, could they potentially trade down again, right? Like if they get a team that wants Drake Maye, could they say, you know what? We're going to act like we take another quarterback, right? And then, hey, who wants to jump in front of New England? And that's the call that I'm sending out there, right? Who wants to jump in front of New England because they're going to take Drake Maye? And then you're talking about adding even more draft capital to your situation. And I think it puts you, DP, in this situation that if Justin Fields doesn't work with all of these pieces around, now you're in prime position to make a trade up to either go get a veteran that's proven or go back up to the top of the draft, whether that be 2025 or 2026, and get that elite level quarterback, right, with a built out roster, and you should be able to win now. So that's how I looked at it from Chicago. I think they put themselves in a situation where they can go so many different ways, and you're talking about win situations, right? If they mess this up, DP, I don't know what to say about Chicago because they're in position to win. But man, let's scroll down a little bit. And continue to look at this thing. Obviously, the New York Giants taking Jaden Daniels, I think is an interesting piece, just because I looked at the Giants wide receiver core, right, and just how they drafted. What's our guy from Tennessee last year? Jalen Hyatt, right? And they have vertical threats, and I'm like, you know what? If we're going to get that version of LSU Jaden Daniels, it's going to have to be that type of situation. And I know that Giants fans are kind of iffy on Brian Daboll from time to time. I'm not out on him. We have to understand this. When he took the job, DP, the Giants was probably one of the worst rosters, right? Now, he took them to the playoffs the first year, but that still doesn't mean you're one of the worst rosters, right? We talk about NFL games being decided by one possession week in and week out. Guess what? Everything fell your way that first year. Now, everything didn't fall your way the second year, right? But you're still trying to rebuild this roster. So I like that. And then wrapping up the Atlanta Falcons, them drafting the edge rush. I knew, listen, it's been an NFC South battle, DP, on who can take swings at the edge position and miss, right? And so I think that the Atlanta Falcons finally got it right with this selection right here with Laitu Latu.
No, and that was a selection that stood out to me because I was like, man, when you have David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett, if they bring back Calais Campbell, you need a guy like Laitu Latu. You need this type of guy.
And you put him on the opposite. You let him and Arnold Ebiketie, your young guy, get after it, right? But obviously Laitu's ceiling is higher. But you let those two speed rushers just get after it and torment quarterbacks, whether that's in a division, just whoever is on the schedule. I want to ask you this. How do you feel about the Falcons taking Laitu because you go to pick 9 and Olu went at pick 9? Do you think that was a fit? Do you think that they should have just went Olu? How do you feel about that situation?
The offensive line for them, I think they still have Jake Matthews at left tackle, Caleb McGarry at right, and it's a solid combo. Not saying that you couldn't upgrade it, but I think the bigger need probably would have been the edge because it's like, I mean, we watched Will Levis make his name, right? Had everybody fooled. I don't want to say it like that, but like, you know what I mean?
I don't know the Brock Purdy and Will Levis conversation.
I don't want to say it like he fooled everybody, but like people thought what they saw against Atlanta was going to be the norm, but it would be the rest of the season for him. It was like, nah, Atlanta couldn't get any pressure. You know what I'm saying? So you double team guys on the interior. If you can't get pressure off the edges, it doesn't really matter, right? And then you think about dealing with Bryce Young, probably Baker Mayfield for another year or two, like, Derek Carr. Like, you got to get pressure on these guys. If you want to win the division, finally get some pressure. And I think that this was a really good pick, Keith. I'm gonna go right here and finish off at number 10. Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Keith, I think the main thing is no matter what happens with Mekhi Becton, the New York Jets need another offensive tackle. It doesn't really matter. It don't matter if he goes back to the left, he stays at the right. It doesn't matter. You need another left tackle. And I love this pick because it's a high ceiling type of guy with all the traits and tools in the world.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about it. Listen, you can't rely on Mekhi Becton anymore if you're a Jets fan, right? If he's there, great. If he's not there, we still have to play football. And you can't let week 1 happen again where Aaron Rodgers is getting pressure, right? And his Achilles snaps or something like that. And then also not even week 1, right? But this can't happen week 15. You can't go throughout the entire season, be sitting in the playoffs, and then Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and then now the whole Aaron Rodgers experiment now. So you have to draft somebody, get him some help, get him some offensive tackle help. But DP, let's keep going, man. That's picks 1 through 10. And guess what? I made this mock draft. So I know that the picks are going to be a little bit explosive, a little bit controversial, but we're going to have this conversation. We're going to have some fun with it. So coming up next, man, picks 11 through 20.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft brought to you by PrizePicks. They are the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers and the odds. Guys, PrizePicks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entries in less than 60 seconds, all right? They have quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of sports, right? Like, you want the ability to do these type of things. Quick withdrawals. You want it to be easy gameplay, right? Great selection of players and stats. That's what they offer. PrizePicks gives you every single bit of that. So, guys, right now, this Sunday on PrizePicks, I'm taking Jrue Holiday versus the Miami Heat for more than 12.5 points. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. At number 11, the Minnesota Vikings go quarterback out of Washington, Michael Penix Jr. At pick 12, the Denver Broncos go quarterback out of Michigan. We get J.J. McCarthy to the Denver Broncos to Sean Payton. At pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders selecting tight end out of Georgia, Brock Bowers. At pick 14, the New Orleans Saints select edge rusher from Florida State, Jared Verse. At pick 15, the Indianapolis Colts select cornerback out of Alabama, Terrion Arnold. At pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks select Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. At pick 17, Trevor Lawrence gets Keon Coleman, wide receiver from Florida State. At pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals select Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle from Oregon State. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams select Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. And at pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Keith, I'm gonna go up, and this is a guy we've talked about. And I think I said it on the pod. He either on the pod, I probably said on the pod and on Twitter/X. J.J. McCarthy is probably going to be the most polarizing name in this draft. Right? It's not Caleb Williams. It's not Drake Maye. It's J.J. McCarthy, because the pendulum on where people fall with him, it swings so wildly, right? Like, it's like either he's got all the tools to be a legitimate NFL quarterback, or you swing it the other direction. It's like, man, this guy stinks. Like, people are so split and torn on him, but I love the fit to Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. I love this fit simply because I think he fits that offense. I think he's that coachable young guy, where Sean Payton, I don't think Sean Payton is the right coach for a veteran, a guy that's set in his ways. Maybe a Kirk Cousins, but you get somebody with more mobility, like a Russell Wilson, who wants to push the ball down the field, do some different things. He's used to plays being called or like plays being called and designed a specific way. He's used to specific formations. I don't think at the stage of where Sean Payton is right now, I don't think that's, the best situation for Sean Payton. Plus, he's a brash dude. So, these veteran QBs, they typically really ain't vying for that.
They're not trying to hit, like they said, they're not trying to hit all that.
I got a family to feed. I don't got time for you to talk to me like I'm your kid and I got kids, right? But at J.J. McCarthy being 20 years old, I think he would embrace learning from a Super Bowl winning coach and be like, listen, man, you coached up Drew Brees. You know what I'm saying? I want to learn everything I can from you. I think that's a really good fit. The arm talent, the mobility. Now, I think that Sean Payton could absolutely call some QB keepers and different things like that, because we know how athletic JJ McCarthy is with his actual speed and running ability. I love this fit. I know people are like, man, that's too high. No, I love this. At 12, go get your guy.
Yeah, and the JJ McCarthy story is not over, guys. Everybody who's listening out every day, I promise you, there's going to be a whole lot more to unfold with this conversation. And I think he's going to end up potentially going this high. I think once people open the film up, right, and remove just the championship game and the playoff game and the Penn State game, right, like those 3 games, and they look into the rest of the resume and the throws that this guy has, I think they're going to look and have a little bit cause for pause, right, and say, okay, this guy has some talent. He's as talented as some of these other quarterbacks that were hyped up right throughout the draft process. It's just that his name, he's more popular, right, for it almost seems like people have kind of put the silly kind of goofy label on him, right? Like just not a dude type of situation, when the talent is definitely there. And I'm not saying he's for sure going to be this all Pro Bowl quarterback, but I think that there's enough talent to take a swing on him if you need a quarterback. And I think you made a lot of good points with Sean Payton. Listen, Sean Payton wants things done how he wants them done, DP. And a quarterback that can go into a college football game and hand the ball off the entire half is a quarterback that's pretty humbled, right? Like,
and
this
not be pissed off about it.
Yeah, you feel pretty good about this guy at if you're trying to mold him. But man, listen, going through the rest of these picks, I would say at pick 11, right, with Michael Penix to the Minnesota Vikings, I like him there. I like Michael Penix in spots, DP, and we talked about him playing under center, right? We had this conversation, with O'Connell, right? I think he was a McVay disciple, right? Can come from the McVay tree. And then you're talking about those weapons, man, him being able to throw to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Now, they may still want to bring Kirk Cousins back for a year, right? And let him play for a year, and then let Michael Penix sit for a year and potentially move on that way. But if there's going to be a situation where Michael Penix is going to thrive, I think it's going to be a situation like that. But man, if you want to continue just to scroll down some with picks, I know with Terrion Arnold to the Indianapolis Colts. If I had to pick one situation, DP, the Indianapolis Colts for me are a tricky team just as far as what they're going to do, right? And I don't know if you feel the same way when you do the mock drafts, right? It's just like, I don't really know, right? They can go wide receiver, they can go offensive line, do they go edge rusher, right? Like, there's so many different ways that the Indianapolis Colts are going to go. So I think you'll see a lot of mock drafts there have corner. But I think if people were being honest, right, with a team that could be a wild card, I think it's the Indianapolis Colts.
No, 100%. And I mean, like I said, they could go receiver, they can go D-line, I mean, they can go a couple different places. Tight end, I know I've seen Brock Bowers here at 15, and everything like that. I know that cornerback is still a need for them, even with Juju Brents. Remember, they drafted Juju Brents and Darius Rush. Rush didn't work out for him. Brents battled some injuries, when he played, he looked solid. He looked like a guy that we thought he was going to look like. And it's like, man, if we could just keep you healthy and really allow you to get the reps you need, we can watch that natural development and watch that big 6'3", 6'4" frame, the mover, the long arms, and let you be that. But then pairing him with a Terrion Arnold, man, I think that, like, if that's the case, I think you have yourself 2 potential lockdown type of corners that can match up with any type of receiving core, right? You know how we talk about having a receiving core that's built like a basketball team. Well, if they got that power forward, Juju Brents got him, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? You ain't worried about being too small in the paint with a Juju Brents, but they got that shifty guard type of receiver. Terrion Arnold can match up with him, so I love that. Keith, I think for me, one of my favorite picks here is at 17, and I know our colleague over here at the Locked On Podcast Network, Uncle Wig over with Locked On Jags, will absolutely love this, to get Keon Coleman to the Jacksonville Jaguars and give Trevor Lawrence that big body, physical, athletic receiver. I said, I was on this pod, I believe it was earlier last week. I said, listen, bring back Calvin Ridley, but didn't go get a big body. And I think Keon Coleman, right? They drafted the tight end out of Penn State last year. I don't know, not Theo Jones.
Was it Scruggs?
No, that's the
offensive lineman.
Yeah, I forget the young man's name that they drafted. They drafted him like second round, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
is it something with a B? I can't remember his name. I can't remember.
I'm blanking on it. I don't even feel like looking it up either. But nonetheless, they drafted him. They have, Christian Kirk. Bring back Calvin Ridley, and man, if you put Keon Coleman in this offense with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, you got to improve the offensive line. That's something Uncle Wiggle, that's my boy, Big Bro. He keep talking about, man, we got to get tougher. We got to be more physical in the trenches. So yeah, offensive line. I know some people in Jacksonville like, man, Keith, at least Fuaga sitting right there. You know what I mean? Like, that's a guy that's going to bring some attitude to that offensive line. But still, yeah, I think Keon Coleman will bring a number one wide receiver capability to this offense, which will allow Kirk to play the 3 role, let Calvin Ridley play the natural wide receiver 2 role. Now it's like, Trevor, don't go out here throwing 15 picks, man. Like, you got two. Yeah. Now you got weapons.
Yeah, no, and I thought about it. DP, first off, the tight end was Britton Strange. That was his name. I knew it was something different. I don't know why I said Juice Scruggs. But no,
not on anybody with the last name Strange after Cole. I'm not gonna lie.
But nah, man, listen, and that was my thought process with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Keon Coleman. I know people are kind of down on Trevor Lawrence, right? You ask yourself this: can we win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence? Don't ask yourself, can he be the best quarterback in the NFL? Can he supersede Patrick Mahomes? Is he a generational talent? Don't worry about any of that, right? Like we said, Ben Roethlisberger has 2, Eli Manning has 2, Russell Wilson has a Super Bowl, right?
Nick Foles got a Super Bowl.
Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl, right? So you ask yourself, can you win a championship with Trevor Lawrence? And the answer is yes, right? You can win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence. So now it's just about putting the pieces around him to get to that Super Bowl. And I think Keon Coleman is definitely a guy that can help in that process. And like you said, I agree, bringing Calvin really bad. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. That's picks 11 through 20, but let's keep going. Let's keep flowing, man. Coming up next, we have picks 21 through 32 to round out this mock draft.
DoorDash is the all-in-one app for your everyday needs, from restaurants and groceries to flowers and gifts. So next time you're running low on dinner ideas, pet supplies, or just time in general, you can get so much more than you realize delivered. You didn't have a chance to hit the grocery store last weekend, right? With all the big game commotion going on, or maybe your bar cart has been mysteriously cleared out. Stock back up for the week ahead with the delivery from DoorDash. Whatever watch party or anything party you've got coming up, guys, you can get it delivered with DoorDash right to your front door. You don't have to crank up your car. You don't have to leave. Okay. Me personally, living in the Greenville County area of South Carolina, I love to get cheesecake factory delivered right to my front door for me and my family. I'm just being honest with you guys. So all you need to do, DoorDash, your door to more. Head to the DoorDash app to get everything you need and delivered. All right. Head to the DoorDash app and get everything you need delivered. Let's bring this thing home, guys. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, man. At number 21, pick 21, the Miami Dolphins select Kingsley Suamataia, offensive tackle from BYU. At pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles select Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback from Missouri. At pick 23, the Houston Texans select Byron Murphy II, interior defensive lineman from Texas. At pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys select J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. At pick 25, the Green Bay Packers select Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle, offensive lineman from Washington. At pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Xavier Leggett, wide receiver out of South Carolina. At pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals select Tavondre Sweat, interior defensive line from Texas. At pick 28, the Buffalo Bills select Troy Franklin, wide receiver from Oregon. At pick 29, excuse me, the Detroit Lions select Cooper DeJean, cornerback from Iowa. At pick 30, the Baltimore Ravens select Chop Robinson, edge rusher from Penn State. At pick 31, the Kansas City Chiefs select Braden Fisk, defensive line from Florida State. And at pick 32, the San Francisco 49ers select Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle out of Arizona. Where do I want to start here? Because there's some good stuff here.
I don't know if it's because I made the mock draft, right? But I really like this mock draft. I'm gonna be honest with you, and it might be because I made it, DP. There might be
I think that's got something to do with it.
There might be a little bit of bias involved in that thought process, but I kind of like this mock draft.
I'm gonna tell you, Keith, the one that caught me off guard was 27, getting T'Vondre Sweat to the Arizona Cardinals. And I think for me, I like this because it's going to you're in a division with the Seattle Seahawks, who have two legitimate running backs. The San Francisco 49ers have Christian freaking McCaffrey, right? I tweeted it out this past week. He's a Hall of Famer right now. I don't care. He can stop playing today. He's a Hall of Famer, right? And just this division is tough, with the run game. So, and then the Rams, right? Kyron Williams out there as a top 5 rusher in the NFL with some would say a subpar offensive line. If you're Arizona, don't get me wrong, I think Chop Robinson would have been a huge upgrade for them off the edge, but just securing that interior D line, right? A guy, and we saw T'Vondre Sweat in person a week or so ago, Keith, down in Mobile. A guy that like legit 360. Oh, he's a legit 360. A guy that's powerful. Power is overwhelming. A guy that can two-gap with ease, he can do those things. So you're talking about making everybody else's job on the defensive line easier, whether that's a Cam Thomas that they drafted 2 years ago, a BJ Ojulari they drafted last year in 2023. I like this fit. I like this pick simply because now Jonathan Gannon can say, we're not about to give up 130 yards a game on the ground. We're not going to allow Christian McCaffrey to take over. We're going to limit these guys and then force these quarterbacks to beat us and allow our pass rush that he's working on, which I expect them to continue to try and upgrade to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, my thought process with the Cardinals, DP, was kind of bringing back a mentality of toughness, right? Especially in the trenches. I thought the Cardinals, they tried to they went too far left with the whole spread them out. The football is going to be played basketball on the football field, right? Remember, like just a couple of years ago, that was the thought process, right? It's like, how crazy can this thing go, right? But now teams are like, you know what? We're going to run the football, right? That's what we're going to do. And I thought about that with Arizona Cardinals. It's like, man, they have to start making a transition to toughness, right? Okay, the NFL did not go that far left, right? We still have AFC championship games that are won with defense, right? A la the Ravens and the Chiefs game, right? Like you still have that. So if they want to continue to climb up the rankings, right, and getting back to their winning ways, I think they have to have a more balanced approach, not just offensively, but defensively has to be a complementary football to where they play really good defense too. But DP, I'll talk about a stretch that I like. If you just want to scroll up the 2 picks right here, the Dallas Cowboys getting J.C. Latham. I think, and then I compared him to La'el Collins. I think he's very similar skill set. And you might as well go back to what worked, right? In the Dallas Cowboys, they have to get to the point, DP, where back to the question I asked to Trevor Lawrence: can you win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott? Yes, you can win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. Now, can you win it with putting everything on his shoulders? No. So what do? You get that balance in the run game, right? And you go back to a guy like J.C. Latham. You upgrade the offensive tackle position if you want to kick him down the guard, but you go get that and you're able to run the football. So guess what? If Dak Prescott starts the game 5 for 15 for 38 yards and an interception, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to run the football, DP. And that was my thought process of just getting back to it. And then the other selection that I like, which is not a high-profile team, but I thought was sneaky good, was the Tampa Bay Bucks taking Xavier Legette. Listen, you have Baker Mayfield for a couple years. You figure out their quarterback situation. But, man, I don't know what they're going to do with Mike Evans. Hopefully they bring him back. He just seems like the type of guy, that should just stay with one franchise, right? Like him, Larry Fitzgerald, things like that. But also Goodwin, right, in the slot. Obviously, he's battled injuries. Now, I've seen some comps calling him Chris Godwin. I'm sorry. I think he's more explosive than that, right? And I really do like the A.J. Brown comp, but I think just that pairing and starting to transition and pass the torch, right, from the earlier days of Mike Evans and Godwin to now bringing in Xavier Legette. Even if you get all 3 of those guys next year, I think you would probably have one of the best wide receiver trios moving forward. And you get Ty Bowles with a explosive offense, and then defensively, right, he'll be able to figure that thing out. So that was kind of the 2 picks that I really liked when I thought about it. It's kind of sneaky good picks that I think can pay off huge dividends.
No, 100%. And like I said, if they can bring back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can bring back Mike Evans, right, to kind of be that, him and Godwin being the brain trust in the wide receiver room for a Trey Palmer and Xavier Legette. Man, you got 2 young, explosive guys with those 2 high-end, highly talented veterans. And if you're Baker Mayfield, man, you walk into that room in training camp and in OTAs and all that, and you're looking around like, man, I like it. Like that story you told about how you walked in and you saw Joe Brady and having Joe Burrow spread out open concepts. Like, you know what? I like this. And then my Baker Mayfield, I'm having that same reaction, Keith, because I look at Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton at tight end, took a step forward this year. I think he's going to be a good player for him, right? Rashad White is a good running back, can carry the rock for him, but also a dangerous receiving option, a reliable receiving option out of the backfield. Then you think about Trey Palmer, that 4.3, 4.2-ish speed.
And I think that's what it does, allow Trey to just simply be Trey, right? Like he's a guy match up on your fourth corner and run past everybody. So I think it balanced everything out, DP, and that's why I kind of went with it. But DP, 100%. That wraps up another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Man, I want to end this podcast by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, especially a mock draft Monday, especially when it's my mock draft Monday. I want to say I appreciate you for that, man. Listen, if you haven't hit the like button, go hit the like button. If you haven't commented, go check out the mock draft on the draftnetwork.com. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the best NFL draft content that you're going to get this draft season. And don't forget to tell a friend about this podcast, man. We appreciate you so much. Listen, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there, my co-host, man. The guys on the ones and two is Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to the podcast, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And of course, tomorrow my mock draft's dropping. So we're going to talk about my mock draft after the Super Bowl, post Super Bowl. My mock draft we'll see what type of fireworks, any trades. I don't know. I'm typically kind of Monday. We'll see how it goes, man. But listen, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.